The galactic radio crackled to life, its familiar hum cutting through the silence of the space station's command room. Commander Evelyn Hayes stood at the center, her fingers hovering over the console, the weight of the moment pressing on her shoulders. Before her, the glowing screen flickered, an encrypted message from the Galactic Council. "Ready to broadcast," the technician said, his voice taut with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Evelyn gave a terse nod, her brow furrowed. This was it. Humanity's defiance, their unwavering refusal to bow, would be laid bare for the galaxy to see. No more negotiations. No more weak compromises. The Council had underestimated the humans. Now, it was time to show them the strength of their resolve. The transmission began, and the first image that flickered on the screen was that of the Council's high chamber, a place of unimaginable power, where countless species gathered to determine the fate of the galaxy. The human representative stood at the podium, his posture rigid, a mere speck of humanity amidst the sprawling alien faces. Evelyn's jaw tightened as she watched, remembering the chaos that had led them here. 3 weeks earlier, the Council had passed a resolution to banish Earth from the galaxy's most vital trade routes, deeming humanity's expansion a threat. They hadn't just underestimated humans, they had forgotten the fundamental truth about them. Humans don't bow. "Commander," a voice interrupted her thoughts. Lieutenant Marcus Voss, a loyal ally, stood beside her, his eyes fixed on the screen. "We're about to make our move, aren't we?" Evelyn's gaze remained locked on the screen, her voice steady despite the tension tightening in her chest. "We are. And when we do, they'll know. We've had enough of their decisions being made without us." The message played on, the human diplomat speaking with controlled fervor. His words reverberated through the room, igniting a spark of defiance within every soul in the command center. "And so, I say to you, Galactic Council, you have cast your judgment, but you do not know us. We refuse your resolution. We will not be silenced. We will not be bent to your will. Earth is no longer the one you can push around. You'll learn, just as the rest of the galaxy will, that when humanity refuses to bow, it stands taller than any force you could throw at it." As the transmission ended, the room fell into a tense silence. The weight of the moment hung in the air, the next move critical. Evelyn felt her heart race. Their refusal wasn't just a political statement, it was a declaration of war. "Command center to all units," Evelyn said, her voice cutting through the tension. "Prepare for action. This may escalate quickly." The hum of the space station filled the air as her officers sprang into action. The metallic clink of boots against the cold floor echoed as they moved with practiced precision. In a few hours, Earth would be in the spotlight. Their defiance would reverberate across the stars. But Evelyn knew better than anyone. The Council wouldn't respond lightly. A war was coming, and humanity was about to face the full weight of the galaxy's wrath. "Commander," Voss spoke again, this time more quietly, almost uncertain. "Do you think we're ready for this?" Evelyn didn't hesitate. She'd led humans through countless battles, each one more dangerous than the last, but this was different. This was not just about survival, it was about asserting that humanity belonged in the stars, no matter who stood in their way. "We're more than ready. We're going to show them why they made a mistake." She turned to face the large screen once more, her eyes hardening as she watched the fading image of the Council's chamber. Her fingers flexed at her sides, an unspoken promise in the gesture. The galaxy had no idea what it was about to face. The defiance was only the beginning. The stars outside the command center's observation deck glimmered like cold, indifferent diamonds. Evelyn stood before the vast expanse of space, her arms folded tightly across her chest, mind racing. Her earlier declaration was only the first move, a spark to ignite a war. Now, the real battle was beginning. "Commander," Voss's voice cut through her thoughts. She turned to face him, eyes still sharp, though the tension in the room was palpable. "The response is incoming." Evelyn's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. She'd expected this. The Council wouldn't allow such an act of defiance to go unanswered. On the screen before her, a new transmission began to form. A sharp, angular symbol appeared, the official insignia of the Galactic Council. The quiet hum of the station seemed to deepen as the transmission unfolded, revealing the face of a towering alien, a diplomatic advisor from the Council, a species known as the Vlash. The Vlash's pale, smooth skin shimmered under the artificial light. His eyes, pale blue, glowing faintly, locked onto the screen. His expression was unreadable, the air of calm he exuded betraying nothing of his true thoughts. Yet, Evelyn knew better than to underestimate him. The Vlash were masters of diplomacy, their ability to control a room with nothing but a glance legendary. But that wasn't going to work here. Not with humanity. Commander Hayes, the Vlash's voice echoed through the room, smooth and calculating. The Council has received your message. Your insolence will not be tolerated. You have forced our hand. Evelyn braced herself, every muscle tensed. What will you do? Send your fleets to our doorsteps, then? Her tone was sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade. The Vlash's lips curved slightly. If you insist on this course, yes, that may very well be necessary. You misunderstand, Commander. The Council did not want conflict with Earth. But your refusal to obey our will leaves us with little choice. You've shown your defiance, and we will respond accordingly. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving only a cold emptiness in the room. The silence that followed was suffocating. Evelyn felt her heart quicken, the weight of the decision pressing down on her shoulders. We're on the verge of a war, aren't we? Voss asked quietly, stepping closer, his voice carrying the weight of the unspoken fear that gripped the station. Evelyn nodded, turning to face him. It's already begun. She didn't need to say more. The tension in the room was enough. The Council had made it clear they would not tolerate humanity's defiance. Their fleets would come, and when they did, Earth would be waiting. Status report on the fleet? Evelyn asked, her mind shifting to action. We've mobilized the first wave, Voss replied. It'll take time for the entire fleet to be ready, but we're not waiting. The defenses around Earth are in place. The alliance with the Drathari is holding strong. We have weapons and soldiers ready, but... Evelyn's gaze hardened. But we're outmatched. The Drathari, once a formidable force, had their own political problems. Their military strength had waned in recent years. The Vlash were part of an alliance of species far more powerful than humanity alone. But Evelyn knew what the Council didn't: humans weren't like the rest of the galaxy. They fought differently. They fought to survive. And they would not go down easily. Get the fleet in position. We need to be ready for a full assault, Evelyn ordered, her voice unwavering. Make sure our allies are prepared. If the Vlash come, we'll show them just how badly they miscalculated. Voss nodded, turning to relay the orders. As Evelyn watched him leave, a chill settled over her. The reality of what was coming felt like a weight in her chest. The Vlash weren't just diplomats, they were strategists, tacticians, and manipulators. They wouldn't rush into a fight unless they were certain of their victory. But Evelyn knew humanity's strength wasn't in numbers or technology alone. It was in their resolve, their refusal to break under pressure. Commander, Voss's voice interrupted her thoughts again, but this time, there was a hint of urgency in his tone. You'll want to see this. Evelyn followed him back to the command center, her mind already racing through contingency plans. What had changed? The screen flickered to life once more, this time showing a different face. A human face. Commander Hayes, General Travis Hill said, his stern features framed by the red lighting of his tactical headquarters. His voice was strained but steady. We've received a transmission from the Vlash fleet. They've entered our space. Prepare for impact. The room went still. Evelyn's pulse quickened. This was no longer a threat. It was an invasion. Activate the defense grid, she ordered, her voice resolute. Prepare for battle. The first strike of war had come. The question now was, would humanity survive? Would they bend? Or would they make the galaxy kneel before them? Evelyn's heart pounded in her chest as she stood at the command station, the hum of the control room barely reaching her ears. Her eyes flicked across the display panels, each one showing a different facet of the growing chaos outside. The Vlash fleet was already advancing, its ships cutting through space like sharks through water, sleek, deadly, and relentless. She could feel the weight of their approach in the pit of her stomach, an oppressive pressure that threatened to crush everything they'd fought for. "Status report," Evelyn said, her voice tight but steady. She refused to let panic show. "Not yet." "Fleet is in position," Voss replied, his face illuminated by the glow of his console. "All defenses are online. But we're not going to hold out forever. The Vlash ships are much larger than ours. They have the advantage in firepower." Evelyn's gaze never left the screen. A countdown was ticking in the corner, and with every passing second, the possibility of war became more real. "What about the Drathari?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "They're mobilizing, but they won't arrive in time to make a difference in the first wave," Voss said. "It's just us." The weight of the situation pressed harder. Alone. Earth's survival rested on the shoulders of this fleet, a fleet that had only just begun to come together in the face of an overwhelming enemy. The Vlash weren't like other species they had fought before, these were calculated tacticians, cold and precise in their methods. They didn't make mistakes. And if they did, they learned from them. Fast. Evelyn clenched her fists. She'd known it would be like this. The Council thought of humanity as little more than a nuisance. They'd underestimated them before, and they would do so again. But this time, Evelyn had no intention of letting Earth fall. "Ready the weapons." "Full power to the forward shields," Evelyn commanded. "We don't back down. Not now, not ever." Voss nodded, his fingers flying across the console as he relayed the orders. The ship's weapon systems hummed to life, the energy shields flickering to full power. For a brief moment, there was a feeling of unity in the room, as if the crew of the station had collectively understood the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for their very existence. "Enemy ships in range," Voss said, his voice steady but betraying the slightest hint of tension. "They're launching their first volley." The warning alarms blared through the command center, a shrill reminder that time was running out. Evelyn's mind raced, her body on autopilot as she prepared for the inevitable. "Brace for impact," she shouted, gripping the edge of the console. The station lurched as the first volley of Vlash fire hit the outer defenses. Explosions rippled across the shields, sending waves of energy throughout the hull. The lights flickered briefly before the backup systems kicked in, stabilizing the station's power. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. The shields held, barely. "Shields holding," Voss reported, his voice laced with a trace of relief. But Evelyn could see the growing pressure on the readouts. The Vlash were only testing their defenses. This was just the beginning. "We've lost 2 of our outer turrets," Voss added. "The rest are online, but they won't last long if we don't take action." Evelyn's mind sharpened, and she quickly ran through the options. Their station was well defended, but it wasn't invincible. If they were to have any hope of turning the tide, they needed to strike back, hard. The problem was, they were outnumbered, and the Vlash had superior firepower. "Target their command ship," Evelyn ordered. "All firepower on the flagship." A moment of hesitation rippled through the command center. It was a bold move. If they took out the flagship, they might cripple the Vlash fleet. But it was risky. One misstep, and they would lose their last chance at survival. "We're locked on," Voss said, his voice taut with concentration. "Firing in 3, 2. The station's weapons fired in a coordinated barrage, energy blasts streaking through space toward the Vlash command ship. The Vlash flagship retaliated almost instantly, its defensive systems activating in a dazzling array of light as it absorbed the incoming fire. It was a near miss, but the attack had gotten their attention. "They're coming at us now," Voss said, his voice almost a whisper. "All ships in range." Evelyn stood firm. This wasn't over. The first strike was just the beginning. They would fight, they would survive, and if they were lucky, they might just show the Vlash that humanity was not to be underestimated. The countdown was almost over. Full power to the aft shields. Prepare for close combat, Evelyn commanded, her voice steady as a rock. It's time to show them who they're dealing with. The battle had only just begun. The Vlash thought they had control. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The void outside the station crackled with the remnants of the Vlash's retaliatory fire. Evelyn's eyes darted across the holodisplay, tracking the course of their missiles as they sailed toward their target. For the briefest moment, it seemed as though the universe had paused. Every second stretched, each decision carrying the weight of their survival. "We've got incoming!" Voss shouted, his hands flying across the console. Evelyn clenched her jaw. The Vlash weren't giving up. They never did. "Divert all remaining power to the port side," she ordered, her voice calm but firm. "We need to survive this volley." The station rocked as explosions reverberated through the hull. Emergency lights flickered for a moment, casting the room in harsh red. Sweat beaded on Evelyn's forehead, but she didn't flinch. She couldn't afford to. "Shields are at 70%, Voss reported, his tone tight. "Hull integrity holding, but we can't take much more." "We're not going to let them take us down," Evelyn muttered, more to herself than anyone else. The crew was depending on her to hold it together, and she refused to let them down. Her thoughts were interrupted by the low growl of a voice from the back of the room. "You underestimate them," Captain Zether's voice echoed from the shadows, his face as hard as stone. His presence was a constant reminder of the stakes they faced, yet his words only served to fuel Evelyn's determination. "We can't just sit here and wait for them to strike again," she said, eyes locked on Zether. "We need a plan, and we need it now." Zether stepped forward, his long strides purposeful. His dark eyes never left the holodisplay, where the Vlash fleet continued its calculated advance. His voice lowered as he approached. "You're playing into their hands. The Vlash are masters of strategy. Every move you make, they're already 10 steps ahead." "I'm aware of that, Captain," Evelyn snapped, unwilling to back down. "But if we sit here and do nothing, we'll be dead before they get the chance." Zether's lips curled in a grim smile. "You're bold, human. That's what I admire about you. But boldness can be a dangerous thing." Evelyn stood tall, letting the words bounce off her like water on stone. "Then teach me how to make it count. We're all in this together. No one gets to sit this one out." Zether studied her for a long, tense moment. Finally, he nodded. "Fine. Here's the plan. We'll split the fleet into 3 divisions. 2 will focus on distracting their main force while 1 makes a direct assault on their command ship. We need to hit them hard, fast, and without mercy." Evelyn absorbed his words, her mind turning the pieces of the puzzle. "And if we fail?" "Then we'll die trying," Zether said coldly, his eyes never leaving her. "There are no other options." The room fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the hum of machinery and the distant sounds of battle. Evelyn's heart raced as the weight of his words sank in. The Vlash were more than just an enemy, they were a force that left nothing in its wake but destruction. To take them on was madness. But it was the only choice they had left. "Voss, get the fleet ready," Evelyn ordered, her voice sharp as steel. "Everyone else, prepare for battle." As the crew scrambled to execute her commands, Evelyn felt the unmistakable sense of finality settle in her chest. The first blow had been struck, but the real fight was still ahead. It was the kind of battle that could decide the fate of Earth, and all the people she'd sworn to protect. Her hand gripped the edge of the console, knuckles white. The hum of the station's engines filled the room as the countdown to their next move began. She stole a glance at Zether, whose unyielding expression remained fixed. There was no room for doubt, no time for second-guessing. It was now or never. "We launch in 10, Voss announced, his voice steady. 10 seconds, Evelyn whispered, but the words felt like an eternity. The crew stood at attention, their collective focus sharp and unwavering. No one spoke, yet they all understood the gravity of what they were about to do. Their lives, their homes, and their very future were all on the line. 5. Voss counted down. 4. Brace yourselves, Evelyn said, the words barely escaping her lips. She had no idea if they would survive, but she couldn't let fear take root. Not now. 3, 2, 1. The station jolted as they propelled forward, cutting through the endless black like a spear aimed straight for the heart of the Vlash fleet. Evelyn's eyes locked onto the display screen as their course set toward the enemy's flagship. It was time to show them what humanity was made of. Let's give them hell, she murmured, knowing full well that this battle would define them. And if they survived, it would be humanity's victory. The Vlash would never forget the day they crossed the line with Earth. The fight for survival had only just begun.